Hello learners, BME 025 Condition Monitoring and Maintenance Management Maintenance Philosophies Part 2 presented by myself Dr. N. Venkateshwarlu, Associate Professor, School of Engineering and Technology, IGNOU, New Delhi. Now we have learned about the maintenance philosophies and also discussed something about the destructive and non-destructive tests. So how it will be utilized in the maintenance system. So now we are going to learn about the various types of tests. In this destructive tests, first we will learn. Several destructive tests are available to determine the various mechanical properties. Based on the nature of loading, they are classified as follows. Mainly static tests, again which are classified as when load is applied gradually, the tension test will be carried out, hardness test will be carried out and creep test will be carried out. Then dynamic or impact test. The specimen is subjected to shock loads. So in this dynamic test, the specimen is subjected to shock loads, and which again these are classified as Charpy test and isoid test. Then third one is cyclic test or fatigue test. Load is repeatedly varied in magnitude and direction during the test. The load varies in this cyclic test. Static test. Tension test. In this experiment, we will determine Young's modulus, the yield strength, ultimate strength, fracture stress, elongation and other properties of several tensile shafts or bars using universal testing machine. After testing, the graph is drawn from the data. For this, we need various measurements of sample geometry to calculate engineering stress versus engineering strain to obtain the material properties. So, why we conduct all these tests? To know the material properties, to get the material properties. To construct the test, one end of the standard specimen is attached to the movable crosshead with other end fixed to a stationary member. The crosshead is driven such that it stretches the specimen apart. That is, specimen is stretched under load until it breaks. Thus, the tensile strength can be measured. The test is suitable to test the load capacity of shafts or bars or trusses and some other machine parts. However, such tests will be performed on specimen materials of the machine parts by original equipment manufacturer of the equipment during or before manufacturing of the machine or during the design stage. So, this test will be carried out during the design stage itself, but sometimes if any machine fails intermittent, in that time also we can conduct this test. The next one is hardness test. The hardness may be defined as the resistance of a material to deformation or indentation. Hardness is measured in hardness number and has no unit. What is hardness? Hardness is the resistance of a material for the deformation. There are three methods in practice to measure hardness number. Thus, we can classify the hardness test in the following three ways: Brinell's hardness test, Rockwell hardness test, Vickers hardness test. So, to finding out the hardness, there are other three types of tests, which are Brinell's hardness test, Rockwell hardness test and Vickers hardness test. So, a brief discussion of these tests is given below. Brinell's hardness test. In the Brinell's hardness test, a hardened steel ball of diameter 10 mm is forced into the surface and an optical measuring device is used to measure the diameter of the resulting indentation, that is D, small d. When the Brinell's hardness number can be calculated by the relation or equation. So, to find out the Brinell's hardness number, we have some equation. With that equation, we can find out the Brinell's hardness number. That is, BHN, Brinell's hardness number, is equal to load applied by surface area of indentation, that is equal to pi d by 2 bracket D minus under root big D square minus small d square. So, this is the equation to find out the Brinell's hardness number, where P is equal to load applied in kgs. If it is 3000 kgs for steel, when we are going to test steel, the load is 3000, and 1000 kgs for copper. If we are going to test copper material, the load will be 1000, and if it is aluminum, the load will be 500 kgs for aluminum. And D, big D, that is diameter of the steel ball in mm, and small d, that is the diameter of indentation, small d, that is also in mm. So, if we know this P, D and D, then we can easily find out the Brinell's hardness number. Then next comes to a Rockwell hardness test. Rockwell hardness tests are different loads and penetrators or indenters, and depth of indentation is calibrated on the dial to a hardness number. We have two scales here, that is B scale and C scale. The hardened steel ball with 100 kg total load is used for B scale, while diamond cone with 150 kg total load is used for C scale. Then Rockwell hardness number on B scale is, to find out the Rockwell hardness number on B scale, we have the equation, that is RB, Rockwell's hardness number on B scale, that is equal to 130 minus D by 0.2. This is the equation for the B scale Rockwell hardness number. And on C scale, that is RC, that is equal to 100 minus D by 0.02, where D is the depth of indentation. So, if we know this D, then we can easily find out the Rockwell hardness number for B scale as well as the C scale. Then next comes to Vickers hardness test. Vickers hardness test uses a surface based diamond pyramid with 360 degrees apex angle between facets. It is forced into the surface with a suitable load ranging from 5 to 120 kg in steps of 5 kg. The test can be used for material with extreme hardness and case hardened parts. The Vickers hardness number or diamond pyramid hardness is defined as the load P per unit area of the impression and is given by the equation, that is, to find out the Vickers hardness number or diamond pyramid hardness, that is DPH, that is equal to 2p sin alpha by 2 divided by d square. If we know this equation and if we get the values of alpha and p and d, then we can find out the Vickers hardness number or diamond pyramid hardness number, where P is equal to load applied on the diamond, that is in kg force, and small d, that is equal to diameter of the impression in mm, alpha angle between the opposite phases of the diamond, that is 136 degrees angle, and dph is equal to 2p sin alpha by 2 divided by d square. So, if we get this the alpha and p and d, then we can find out the dph or Vickers hardness number. Then next comes to creep test. The progressive deformation of material at constant stress is called creep test. So, what is creep test? It is a constant deformation of progressive. The progressive deformation of material at constant stress is called creep test. To determine the creep behavior of the material, a constant load is applied to a specimen maintained at a constant temperature and the strain is determined as a fraction of time. The creep test data is presented in the form of creep curve. The slope of the curve is referred to as the creep rate, that is dE by dt. Then comes to dynamic or impact tests. So, impact tests are designed to measure ability of the equipment or its parts to withstand shock loads. It involves a pendulum swinging down from a specified height h1 to strike the test piece and fracture it. The length h2 to which the pendulum rises after breaking the test piece is a measure of the energy used in the breaking. So, after calculating the energy required to break the specimen, the impact strength can be found by the formula. So, to find out the impact strength, first we should know the energy required to break the specimen. Then only we can find out the impact strength. We can put it in the formula so that we can get the value. That is, impact strength can be calculated, that is equal to energy in fracture, that is H2 energy is the H2 when the impact test carried out at H2 after breaking the specimen, it gets the some height. So, that height is known as a energy in fracture. So, that is equal to energy in fracture divided by cross sectional area of the notch. So, in this way we can find out the impact strength of a specimen. Next test is the Charpy test. For Charpy test, a notched specimen is mounted as a simple supported beam and heavy pendulum is allowed to strike the specimen from fixed height. The notch is on the face directly opposite to where the pendulum strikes the test piece. Then in this IJOR test and fatigue test also we can see. The IJOR test, in this case a notched specimen is held in a vise in the form of cantilever and a high pendulum is allowed to strike the specimen from a fixed height. The blow is struck on the same face as the notch at a fixed height above it. Then fatigue test. The fatigue failure is caused by repeated stress cycle. The most commonly used fatigue test is rotating beam test, in which specimen is loaded and rotated. Now, we have learned about the destructive test, and now we are going to learn about the non-destructive tests. So, here the material will not be wasted or material will not be destructed. So, here in this, that is why we are calling it as a non-destructive test. You might have heard and rather used many times the word eureka, means I found it. You might have also be familiar with the Archimedes principle and the story behind it. When his king asked him to find out without destroying whether the crown is made up of pure gold or any impurities present, he really took the hardship but finally made it possible to find the purity without destroying. Perhaps that might be the first non-destructive test in the modern science, or it might be the root for development of NDT techniques, if not the first, and then onwards a variety of competitive NDT techniques for fault detection have long been established and many more are being added to the list every day. A few are explained in this section. We are going to learn few non-destructive tests in this video lecture. The NDT method have gained popularity in the modern high-tech environment as these are more reliable, safe and economical. In some cases, no other way than the NDT is to be employed, for example, the bomb testing or brick strength testing, etc. In the present context, NDT has two important roles to play in diagnostic maintenance. These are, from these investigations, the presence of defects is established. It is also useful in estimating the nature and the context of defects and arriving at a conclusion to run or shut down the machines. B. NDT also helps in measuring the defect size and distribution, which plays a crucial role in taking the final decision to continue or replace the spares or even the machine also in few cases. A number of such tests are available to detect the defects in metallic components. The most popularly used NDT techniques are liquid penetration inspection, magnetic particle testing, eddy current inspection, and ultrasonic inspection. Fifth one is radiography, that is X-ray or gamma ray. These are all explained in the following way. Liquid penetration inspection. This method is used to detect large cracks or openings, cold shuts, fatigue cracks and pits. There are two types of liquid penetration inspection: dye penetration inspection and fluorescent liquid penetration inspection. Dye penetration inspection. The liquid dye penetrant is sprayed onto the clean surface of test piece. Excess amount of dye is removed. Surface is washed with water and thoroughly dried. Then a developer is sprayed on surface, which brings out the color in the dye penetrants that has penetrated into cracks or pinholes. Fluorescent liquid penetration inspection. Fluorescent liquid is applied to the surface to be inspected. After removing the excess liquid, surface is washed and dried. Then the test surface is viewed under the black light, whose wavelength lies between the visible and ultraviolet regions of the spectrum, which causes penetrant to glow clearly in the dark. Some solids used in the cleaners and developers contain a high percentage of chlorine to make the liquid non-inflammable, but requires a great care in view of the health hazards associated with chlorine. Penetrance testing has the advantage that it can be used for all types of materials. The next test is magnetic particle testing. There are several methods of magnetic particle testing to detect welding, casting and forging defects in iron and steel parts. The part to be tested is magnetized by external magnetic yoke coil or passing an electrical current, and the inspection medium is applied on it. In dry method of inspection, a special fine ferromagnetic powder is applied on the surface by means of handshaker or vibrating screen so that the powder is uniformly distributed on the surface. In wet method, a liquid like kerosene containing suspended fine ferromagnetic particles is sprayed or brushed. Due to the formation of magnetic poles at the crack or flaw, the magnetic powder concentrates in that area. Then eddy current inspection. Eddy current inspection testing is one of the method of detecting discontinuities and flaws. The method is based on the principle that when the alternative current carrying conductor coil is brought near a metallic or conducive specimen, eddy currents are induced in the specimen due to electromagnetism. These eddy currents produce their own magnetic field that opposes the field of the current carrying coil, thereby increasing the impedance or resistance. Then ultrasonic inspection. Ultrasonic inspection is fast, reliable NDT method which employs electronically produced high frequency sound waves that will penetrate melts, liquids and many other materials at speeds of several thousands feet per second. Piezoelectric materials, that is quartz, are used to produce ultrasonic waves. If an alternating electric field is applied to a piezoelectric crystal, the crystal will expand during the first half of cycle and contract when the electric field is reversed. By varying the frequency of the alternating electric field, we can vary the frequency of the mechanical vibration produced in the crystal. There are two common ultrasonic test methods, the through transmission and the pulse echo methods. Ultrasonic inspection is used to detect and locate defects such as shrinkage in cavities, internal bursts or cracks, porosity, and large non-metallic inclusions. Wall thickness can also be measured in closed vessel or in cases where such measurement cannot otherwise be made. Radiography or X-ray or gamma ray test. Radiography is one of the most useful NDT which can be applied for inspection of cracks, porosity, blowholes, etc. In welds, all types and thickness ranging from minute welds in electric components to welds up to half meter thick employed in heavy fabrications. The principle of the technique is based on exposing the components to short wavelength radiation in the form of X-rays or gamma rays from a suitable source such as an X-ray tube. The position of the weld where defects are suspected is exposed to X-rays. During exposure, X-rays penetrates the weld object and thus affect the X-ray film kept behind. Since most defects possess lesser density than the parent metal, they transmit X-ray better than the surrounding parent metal does. Therefore, the film appears to be darker where defects are in line of the X-ray beam. Gamma rays are used for detecting defects in welded plates thicker than those inspected in X-rays. Gamma rays can inspect a number of welded defects at a time. Radium and its salts decomposes at all constant rate, emitting gamma rays which are of shorter wavelength and more penetrating than ordinary X-rays. Unlike X-rays, gamma rays from its source are emitted in all directions. Therefore, a number of separate welded objects having cassette containing film fastened to the back of each object are disposed in a circle around the source placed in a central position. A comparison chart of all the above techniques is given in table 5.1 for quicker reference with their advantages, limitations, when and where to apply. So, kindly see the table 5.1 in the text so that you can easily understand about the techniques and their comparisons and their benefits. Then comes to Leo approach. The Leo approach has been put forth by Britton as a simple formalized way of selecting the appropriate technique by assessing effectiveness. 3 separate factors are considered and then combined to provide a measure of the size of the fault that must be detected for the technique to be effective. Leo, L is equal to level of critical parameter, E is equal to experience factor and O is equal to operational efficiency factor. A. The critical parameter size L is the cause of the particular failure being considered. In the context of cracks, this could be the crack depth. If the failure were seizure of a rolling bearing, it is unlikely that the size of the damage in the races could be considered. More appropriately, it could be correlation between vibration and shock pulse level and occurrence of seized bearings. Thus, L would be the vibration or shock level at which experience has shown the bearing will seize. The experience factor E to the account of the amount of knowledge possessed of the cause and mechanism of the failure. 2. The rate of progression of the failure in relation to monitoring the frequency. 3. Both these points of experience amounts to a measure of extent of previous trouble encountered. See the monitoring operational efficiency factor O, which takes account of 1. The sensitivity and reliability of the method and equipment in relation to the characteristics of the machine and its environment, and 2. the skill of the monitoring personnel. O would vary from 1 where failures had been thoroughly monitored to 0 where it had never been possible to detect the fault in the past. So, the product L into E into O provides a measure of monitored parameter level or change which the monitored technique must be able to detect to be certain of providing sufficient warning of impending failure. Unfortunately, although data have been collected for NDT applications, the approach has not yet been taken up for general condition monitoring, and no exact information is available on LE or O factors applicable to behavior, wear debris or vibration monitoring. However, the maintenance engineer will find it useful to develop his own factors for the technique he has had. Some proposals for monitoring operational efficiency factors derived from Britain are shown in table 5.1 in the text materials. So, with this, the learners, I conclude the topic, that is destructive testing and non-destructive testing. So, we have learned various types of destructive testing such as fatigue test, creep test, and for non-destructive testing, ultrasonic testing, and etc. we have learned in this. So, learners, kindly read the units also and then listen the videos so that you can easily understand and you can easily, and also you have to attempt the assignments. So, with this I conclude here, and thank you very much.